Hi guys, just a heads up. This week's podcast might have some varying quality in audio. That's because Michelle is on a boat, and she extremely sounds like she is on a boat. But don't worry, I think you can still hear her, and bear with us, next week we will be back on dry land.
Hello, and welcome to Sanditon Fancast, and we are your hosts. I'm Michelle. I live in the States, but right now I'm not there. I'm in the middle of the Pacific, nearing Mexico. You can find me at Musings on Instagram and Twitter.
I love your little updates. I'm Rita. I live in England. I'm at Annoying Rita on Instagram and Twitter. Congrats on reaching part 2 of our final Postcards from Sanditon podcast. I mean, that's an achievement. Truly. I mean, congrats to us as well. Well done, Michelle. You made it.
Oh, gosh. Totally excited.
So, let's dive on in. My dear ladies, first, let me thank you again for the time and energy you've put into these podcasts. It's been a pleasure spending time in your company. Also extra props to Rita for hosting the Postcards alone. Also extra props to Rita for hosting the Postcards show alone last week. I hope you treated yourself to a nice long bubble bath and a nice cup of tea after that. So, Sanditon is done. That was another marvellous cliffside scene. Another man stopping Charlotte's carriage, this time for a happy ending. But am I the only one who would have wanted more time with Charlotte? The whole episode was so rushed and seemed to jump from here to there, yet they seemed to want us to forget that everything was happening in the space of 2 days. We open on Mary, but fear not. Mere hours later, she will be cured, up and out of bed, visiting Georgiana with Charlotte, and off to a wedding the next day. Time constraints just made some of this laughable. One of my favourite scenes was little Leo quacking at Augusta to cheer her up. But before that, at the window, we have the whole Colborne clan looking at her mournful figure as Miss Wheatley proclaims, "She will not eat, she will not sleep. It's like having a phantom in the house." It's the next morning. The only meal she has skipped is breakfast. Let the girl grieve her bad romance for a hot minute. They were trying to cram so much in. Samuel had been at the beach with Lady Susan just before this scene. Then he was back in town at the tea house with her again, and then back to the house in time to tell a visiting Charlotte that Lady Susan was leaving for London. He must have been exhausted. I'm afraid no one is going to get a prize for clever writing on this show. In an earlier episode, when Lydia hinted her mother had put a stop to her romance with an unsuitable beau, I did not suspect her of carrying on the relationship, but the minute she said she was going riding, I knew, even as they tried to throw us off the scent by saying Xander was off riding, apparently at the same time. I also wanted more time with Georgiana and her mother. It was good to see her and Harry realise they would be miserable if they got married, but her rushing off to London to marry Otis, with her mum as sole witness, ugh. Would she not have wanted to share her happy moment with her Sanditon family? Nope, we ain't got time for that. I'm not sure what to make of Lady Denham's pawning Sir Edward off on some poor constituents. What kind of clergyman will he make? Some signs that he has a conscience once in a while does not make him reformed. I have a family member like him. Not an evil poisoner, but still someone who is always making promises she can't keep, betraying confidences, who will then, out of the blue, do some grand gesture, making you think she is mending her ways. But it never lasts. Also, before Lady D called off the wedding, Edward said he would be penniless and have nowhere to live. Whatever happened to that leaky mansion he and Esther lived in season 1? If he had stated that he would have to go and find himself a job to earn a living, I might have felt more sympathy. I do love that we got a Charlotte and Lady Denham scene in the end, and Charlotte got her school and a nice fat cheek baby. I will miss some of these characters, but I'm glad it's over. Oh, one last thing. Do you think Jane Austen would have ever written the line, "If Jesus himself were to pay me a compliment, you would find fault with him"? LOL. Glad Miss Hankins got her happy ending too. Cheers, ladies, and this is from Denise. Thank you. Hello, Rita, Michelle, and fellow mourners at the end of Sanditon. The end of this series has felt like a death, so it has taken me some time to work through that and not feel it unfair to critique the episode. Oh, you've come to the right place.
Yes,
however, I must speak now. I utterly object to the resolution to Edward Denham's storyline. Lady D is unwise to give him a living as a clergyman. The scoundrel has traits of an antisocial personality disorder. It is bad enough that Reverend Hankin has so much pride in himself versus humility, but Edward's manipulative nature would end up harming the parishioners of Sanditon. Therefore, I propose a substitute scene in which Lady D writes Rowley Price the following letter to be read upon his departure. My dearest Rowley, I regret that I could not marry you. In consolation, I bestow upon you a gift, that of Sir Edward Denham, as your new gardener and shrewd business associate. Surely you will find a special post in which he can apply his many skills and talents. To wit, he rolls a mean rake, has a talent for pounding sand, an eye for orchid selection, and is experienced in seed propagation. Oh my god. His professional skills include expert marksmanship, tactical maneuvers, covert operations, and battlefield pharmaceutical management, particularly the application of controlled narcotics.
Oh my god.
In his free time, he enjoys love letter origami and planning romantic getaways. I feel like he just wrote his Tinder profile.
Bravo.
Other endings and resolutions. 1. Did I spot a plot hole?
Many.
Probably.
Many.
When did Charlotte tell Susan that Xander was engaged to Lady Lydia? I only saw a scene in which Charlotte told Susan that she would tell Xander at Lady D's wedding that she had ended her engagement to Ralph. How did Susan hear about this rumour? No other characters who knew the rumour, Parkers, Georgiana and Lady Lydia, had any interaction with Susan. Susan and Charlotte would have had to have spoken in the church about it because there was not another opportunity. 2. I saw no reason for Lady Lydia's engagement to be used as an interference between Charlotte and Xander's storyline. It just wasted precious time. 3. I failed to see how a cliff scene was really the best thing for Alexander's final declaration of love to Charlotte, but I understand that Justin felt he had to finish the drama on a cliffside to redeem the writers from their abandonment of Charlotte there in season 1. I think that Charlotte could have gone back to Hayrick Park later in the afternoon to tell Xander that she had ended her engagement, or because Xander knew that she had something to tell him in person, he had a perfect excuse to gallop into town to call on her. There could have been a scene in which Charlotte and Xander told Mrs. Wheatley and the girls that they would finally marry. I would have loved to have seen Leo's excitement, finally getting the mama she wanted, and Augusta's relief that she would have a mother figure who she loved to shepherd her along. Wouldn't it have been wonderful to see Mrs. Wheatley interact with Xander in jubilation over his engagement, finally getting his happy ending after knowing him his whole life? 4. Regarding my unmet demand from episode 5, sadly Charlotte and Xander never called one another by their first names, and we did not get to hear them in the vows. And even in the final scene, Xander called Charlotte Mrs. Colborne. Alexander, we know she was Mrs. C. We saw you marry her. Her name's plastered on the school. Is she still calling you Mr. Colborne? Note. I task Sir Edward Denham to scrub away the rotten eggs that rain down upon Trafalgar House in protest before he sets out on his new adventures with Rowley Price. A hodgepodge of happy reflections. 1. The whole Colborne family was restored to itself and Alexander to his community as a benefactor and willing participant. 2. Susan became Charlotte's sister-in-law. Brothers married to friends makes for stronger connections and many happy times as a family group. 3. I love the music themes played during the breakup and the love theme for Alexander and Charlotte that was also played for Augusta and the scallywag whom I won't mention. 4. I so admired Eloise Webb's beautiful posture. extension of her arms and centered turns when she danced in season 2 during Charlotte and Alexander's first dance. I love that music. It will never leave my head. I wish I could dance all of the dances in the series. Wouldn't that be fun? 5. I do think that Augusta deserved more than one bonnet this series, much as I liked the one she wore daily. I loved that bright shrug and dress she wore to Lady D's wedding. Augusta handled the awkwardness, get it?
Yes.
Of seeing Edward again with such grace. A final goodbye. I am the Alexander Colborne of social media. Not having grown up a digital native, I shy away from Twitter, Instagram and the like, so I never thought to seek out postings related to season 1 and 2. Rewatching episodes was my only solace. Long after season 2 aired, just before season 3, I came across some Sanditon podcasts and postings, including yours, and have enjoyed them so much. Rita and Michelle, I know that it has been quite a burden on you to do the extra postcards from Sanditon podcast, but it has served as a sort of book club through which to analyse and process the show, and I have appreciated it. Thank you so much, podcasters and fellow podcast listeners, for making this final season of Sanditon a more complete experience for me. And this is from Elizabeth from North Carolina.
Oh, thank you, Elizabeth.
This is like a very weird book club.
Hi girls, Morgana here. First, I couldn't decide which is worse, waking up at 4 a.m. to record the podcast or going to sleep after midnight. Mercy girls. And you do it for fun and without making any money? After that, I felt super guilty and went to rate all the podcasts on Spotify. Oh, thank you. Now I'm putting the podcasts to scroll on Audible so I can rate it too. I couldn't find where the review is.
We're on Audible?
Oh my gosh. Oh, we'll have to.
I did not know this.
We'll have to look that up. Oh my gosh, that's cool. Audible, contact us. I couldn't find where the review is written on Spotify, Google, and YouTube couldn't tell me either. So maybe this review thing is only for those who listen on Apple?
I think so.
Let's see. Anyway, I need to leave here my affection and admiration for you and for your volunteer work. I really love and feel like I'm super best friends with you. Until 2 episodes ago, when I realized that Rita is a Slytherin, which shook my conviction. It shouldn't have come as a surprise, and it didn't.
Not really.
It was more. Could a born Ravenclaw like me be friends with such an outspoken Slytherin? I love when Rita says, ? I've come to the conclusion that I respect you more for being a Slytherin than if you were a Gryffindor. Courage without a minimum of intelligence pisses me off, and I love the practical sense of the Slytherin. As for Michelle, a Hufflepuff, my heart was all fluffy and I thought, of course, obvious, too cute to be anything else. We would be best friends from the first second. Yeah, I'm pretty much a Hufflepuff, to the bone. Now that I've given you enough praise, my head is kind of tilting a little bit from the weight. Can I start adding to the work pile? This week I was rewatching the 2009 BBC series Emma, my favorite adaptation. Oh, it's so good. I know, Michelle, that the 2020 movie is your favorite, but I find the series much funnier and closer to what I envisioned the tone of the book to be. I wanted to know what is the chance of maybe you doing a single episode commentating on the series as a whole. Please? Didn't we?
Have we not done that?
Didn't we do that, Emma? Because that's the one with, oh God, what's her name?
Romala.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, okay.
Yeah.
I'm checking, because I'm pretty sure we did.
Yeah.
Wait. I'm on the thing. Wow, we did too many podcasts. I'm scrolling. We did too many podcasts. I can't. Wait, okay. What are we on? Okay, A Room with Sanditon, The Abduction Club, Persuasion, Pride and Prejudice, Northanger Abbey, Sense and Sensibility, Mansfield Park, Love and Friendship, Austenland. I don't think we did,
Seriously?
Oh my god.
Well,
that's an oversight on our part.
That's a sin. Okay.
I think because we already did Emma.
Mm-hmm.
When we did our Austen series, we just skipped over it.
Right.
Like fools. Fools.
We should do it again, but again, when?
When do we have time?
Yeah, things are heating up in British period drama land these days, so we'll see.
You know why I think we're confused? Because we watched I Capture the Castle that has the same actress.
Oh, okay.
Apparently we started imagining podcasts, Michelle.
Wow. The delusions are running thick and fast. Let's see. I know the list is long, but in the series there is Rupert Edmonds, who plays Papa Evans. Blah, blah. Rupert Evans, who plays Papa Bridgerton. In Emma, he plays Frank Churchill, an easily smitten cretin. So Rita has been commenting that she wanted to do a podcast of The Great. I confess that I haven't seen it, but I would if you do the podcast. Also reviewed was Queen Charlotte and then the 3rd season of Bridgerton. So I guess you guys won't have time for a hiatus. No. And that worries me because I don't want you to be overburdened. I was thinking that if you want to rest, you could start the Queen Charlotte podcast 2 or 3 weeks after it opens, or even do 2 episodes for each podcast. I confess that this idea does not please me because I love the details you manage to address when making an episode per podcast. But thinking about Rita waking up at 4 in the morning, recording until 7 a.m. and going to work afterwards, or Michelle going to bed after midnight and having to wake up early the next day. So if you foresee a time, take it out. But not too long. Contradictions, I know. Now, finally, about Sanditon. Was it just me who was frustrated not to receive a story of Lydia's romance? Who was she engaged to? I so wanted this story with more details. After all, if they made the whole season a mountain of history, why leave only Lydia without hers? Who's the guy? How did they meet? What was his defect that her mother didn't want the marriage? Why didn't they give me a scene of her telling her mother? Yes. About Lady D, the only thing I thought about the decision to leave the boy at the altar was, couldn't you have thought of that before your servants packed the whole house? Now they will have to double work to unpack. As for Tom's speech, I had to skip it. I already heard both versions of the previous 2 seasons and didn't think that scene was worth my patience. And finally, the scene of Alexander's statement, which clearly sent me Matthew McFadden's Lord Darcy statement, "You have bewitched me. You have bewitched my soul and my body." And there was even a tearful Charlotte to please last week's listener who wrote indignantly that she wasn't crying in Xander's presence. And last, very last, seriously, there was only a month between the end of season 1 and the start of season 3? I'm shocked. Well, it's not like the timeline made sense on this show anyway. Thanks, girls, for another podcast. Have a good rest and see you next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Morgana.
Mm-hmm.
Always a fun time, and she's worrying about us.
Yes.
Bless her.
Yes. We're doing all right.
I mean, you're off sailing the ocean, living your best life. Okay. Hi, love the podcast. My understanding was that the house that Edward and Esther were living in during season 1 was part of the Lady Denham's estate, and that she is allowing them to live there. This is my recollection, although not necessarily correct. I think he has a title, but no estate and no money. This is from Catherine.
Thank you, Catherine.
Okay, Catherine, the thing is, when he inherited the title, he would have inherited Lady Denham's house if it was part of his estate. I think in the book they explained that she was married twice, so the first time she was married to a really wealthy man, she amassed a lot of money after his death, and then she married another man for his title, and then they used all the money to build this really grand new house, and left the old one to sort of ruin, moved into the new one, and that wasn't entailed, and then Edward got the shitty property when he came into the title.
Ah!
Note that Jane Austen wrote like 11 chapters of this book and has already explained this better than they ever did in the show. Just saying.
Well, it's a detail that it would have been nice if they considered, since it was something
plot holes. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when we notice you? Okay.
Oh, God. Dear Rita and Michelle, thank you so much for this podcast. It has been so fun to relive all the ins and outs of Sanditon through your eyes as I eagerly awaited each new episode to drop. and it's so good to have you commiserate with over this flop of a finale. I thought your rating of 3.5 Antigua black pineapples was incredibly generous. Perhaps if I rewatch it, I'll mellow slightly. You made great points about the rushed and overly neat conclusion of all the storylines. I also thought Rita was very insightful about the way we were hearing more and more about a woman's right to define her own path, but saw less and less of that actually playing out. Season 1 did more showing and less telling, but things have gone downhill in Season 3. I cringed so much in Episode 5 when we got the same "women should have a choice" speech 3 times, and yet the most decisive action came from Edward, Xander, Samuel, and Mr. Price.
Zing.
In the finale, I was expecting a lot more decisive action from our female protagonists. At least Lady D delivered. Every line was a gem. I laughed when her face hardened as she ruminated on how her new name, Mrs. Rowley Price, would sound. Yes, that I kept expecting Charlotte to get a pep talk from Georgiana, storm in on Xander, and say something gutsy to get him back. I think the relief of breaking free of her from her engagement to Ralph would definitely have given her the momentum for it. She's broken free. She knows Xander loves her. What is this girl waiting for? Instead, she keeps playing the suffering in silence card and would have quietly disappeared off to Ireland if Xander hadn't come to the rescue. Even the dreamy clifftop scene doesn't atone for the limp character Charlotte has become in this season. Several things about this episode felt unforgivingly unrealistic. After miraculously waking up to Tom declaring yet another of his transformations, surely Mary needs to lie in bed or on the couch for at least another 48 hours. Yet she is back to her usual state of health within minutes. Just like Georgiana's trial, the fact that the ordeal is over so soon really cheapens Mary's near-death experience. Augusta and Edward, none of this makes sense. 1 minute she's inconsolable. The next she is out and about in public smiling at people. Edward would not have been allowed to stick around in Sanditon after that. He's been kicked out before, and he could have been kicked out again. Surely nobody would have expected the pair to be in company in the same room ever again. Why is Edward invited to Xander and Charlotte's wedding breakfast? And why on earth does Lady Denham declare him redeemed? Surely the disgrace of his attempted elopement would mean more to her than the fact that he didn't go through with it. The only bit I liked was when he realizes he will have to become a vicar. That bit was hilarious if I didn't think too much about it, or didn't think about it too much. God help those poor parishioners. Dear Aunt, have you taken leave of your senses? That was great. I would have liked to have seen one more scene of Lady Montrose. She is one of the more complex characters whose selfish suavity I grew to love. It felt odd to leave off so suddenly with her. It would have been funny, or at least honest, to see her reaction to the collapse of all her plans. But this episode was intent on showing only the happy endings, which contributed to the overall sense of unreality. As for Georgiana, I wish they'd set up her reunion with Otis a bit better, if that's where things were heading. But I also don't think we really needed her married off by the end. Couldn't she have decided to hold her own and just not care about correspondence and gossip? Her situation really doesn't seem desperate to me. She has the means to stay single and has found a great little niche in Sanditon. London society might be more ruthless to a woman of color, but in Sanditon she is at the top of the food chain. The pressure to marry was something she could have brushed aside easily with an eye roll. I don't think the priority for Georgiana was to marry straight away. Perhaps she could have bumped into Otis at the end as an afterthought, and shared a cute glance with him, giving the viewer a clue of things to come on later. But wasn't it more important for her to learn to fight her insecurities, grieve the past, and finally give her mum a tearful hug? Her line, "I shall have no need of anyone," shows how her experiences have made her reactive and self-defensive. She needs a counselor and a long holiday with her mum, not a husband. So, yes, so many things about this episode made me scoff and flinch. Luckily, Samuel, Susan, Lady D, Harry, and the cutest couple of all, Ms. Hankins and Dr. Fuchs, were all as lovely as ever to watch. Go, Miss Hankins! I'm so proud of you for standing up to your brother. Finally, I'm happy to let Lydia's romance remain backstage, but the Hannibal theory is very charming.
It is!
Yes. You both do such a great job, and I really enjoy all your discussions. Thank you for all the effort to create great fan cast. Katie from Melbourne, Australia. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Katie. We're very popular in Australia for some reason. Thank you.
That's awesome.
I think it's all my years watching Australian soaps. Just vibe. Hello, Michelle and Rita. I've been a fan since 2017 when you started it all with Poldark. I think I finally found out how to contact you. You did. Well done.
Yes.
Thank you for reviewing Poldark and many other period pieces in a thorough and fun manner. I'm a male, almost 70. Around 1983, there was a Joe Pesci. Well, I'm sorry, I don't speak dude movies. Joe Pesci, Pacino, and or De Niro with a baseball bat. Well, I said to myself, screw this, give me Jane Austen. Same. Since then, I've watched Little Women, 1994, at least 12 times. I have the DVDs of 6 Jane Austen films, Room with a View with the opera soundtrack. I've probably watched the first 2 episodes of Poldark 20 times. The same with the first few episodes of Anne with an E. Anne with an E will always make me cry. Oh my god, same. Oh my god. Oh my god. I've been very engaged by Sanditon. Charlotte is the most lovely character. One could feel all her pain. Edward perhaps became the worst villain in any show. Charming and not violent, but able to control others with despicable behaviour. I'm eager to hear your podcast about the final season. That has just struck me. Michelle, question. Who's worse, Edward as a vicar, or everyone's favourite foot sucker from Poldark?
Oh, God. I think it's the toe sucker.
I think so, too. You can't really get worse.
Because he's an abusive, rapey raper.
Yes, the rape, isn't it? It's the rape. Isn't it interesting that they both ended up in the church, though?
Boy, what is that saying?
They continued. Here's my vote for you two covering Anne with an E. Oh my god. It's on the list, but I don't know how we can.
Yes, it is.
Guys, you're gonna have to, fund us full time if we're gonna do that. We got...
I mean, how many seasons are there of Anne with an E?
Only 3, but it's a longer season, I think.
3?
3 is 3. It got cancelled. We're still mad about it, but,
Oh.
Matthew saying, she's my daughter in the 2nd episode. Oh, I'm crying as I type this. Oh my god, Matthew. Matthew was the best human that never existed. I realise he's fictional, but my wife and I enjoy most shows together. La Concierge de Castamar, Netflix, and too many explicit sex scenes for her. What is that? We're Googling that.
Yeah.
I do like some Spanish period dramas. Oh, The Cook of Castamara. Adaptation of the novel. Have I not heard of this? It's about a chef. What does she cook?
Put it on the list.
We can handle the sex scenes. I loved The Cook, Clara, and had to finish it by myself. It rushes nothing but the ending. Thank you for providing me hours of fun relaxation, and this is from Lamar. Thank you, Lamar.
Oh, thank you, Lamar. Let's see. The next starts off. Sanditon, the wash-up.
Oh, wait, before we get into this. Hello, people listening on YouTube. This email features a bunch of musical clips we do not have the rights to. If you would like to listen to this email, please find us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you pod that isn't YouTube. Okay, continue.
Sanditon, the wash-up. When reflecting on the series as a whole, I became inspired by Rita's ability to match songs to each episode, and thought perhaps I could match a song to the major characters' stories, personalities to describe how I viewed them. Don't judge me. Yet. So I actually have made a playlist on Spotify if you're interested in listening to the songs in totality. But thought for brevity, I would highlight the verses that best describe the characters. Cue the waves on the sands of the beach. Charlotte and Xander, the end of Series 2. This man, Alexander Colborne, has sparked Charlotte's interest and love again after Sydney, but he has so many layers to break through. As she tries to peel them back, it obviously leads to that great Austen setup. Love, loathing, then admiration, then anger, confusion, and then stirring of emotions. But when you begin peeling an onion, you're going to cry. Cue Adele, the queen of drama, rolling in the deep. They could have had it all much earlier. Edward Denham, Edward the despicable man that he is, playing everyone and especially Augusta and Esther and Clara in his life to further his own agenda. Awesome acting by all these people in this storyline. Really loved to hate him, but I think there was some insight eventually by Edward when he recognized he was no good for anyone, but not sure if joining the clergy was going to help. Note him eyeing off the girl at Charlotte's wedding. Seriously, Lady Denham, surely this is more torture tactics? Some bad habits don't change. Cue Bad Habits by Ed Sheeran. Tom Parker. How many times does one let this man near money? I think the song says, "What a Fool Believes" by the Doobie Brothers says it all. No lyric required. With Mary Parker, I think she suffered in silence for far too long, the entire series 1 to 3, quite frankly. I think she needs to be made a saint. But when she finally wakes up and stands up to her husband, fool that he is, bring out the big guns of Ms. Aretha Franklin and R-E-S-P-C-T. Lady Denham, the wonderful, wisecracking, grumpy lady of Sanditon. Every gang needs someone to bring them back down to earth, and boy, her quick wit was spot on, generally. However, she was led astray a little by Rowley, but she finally got a grip and realized she didn't need him to achieve what she wanted in life, because, as Miley Cyrus says,
she can buy herself flowers.
Arthur Parker, beautiful soul. Everyone needs a brother like him. Well, maybe not Tom. He has the awakening of his true self and just wants someone to call his own and love him for who he is. He seems to have found that in Harry, but given the time period, who knows really? Song Dancing on My Own by Callum Scott.
No. We're not playing that. I'm pulling rank and we're playing the original by Robin, and quite frankly, how dare you suggest the cover? It is shockingly saccharine.
Oh, gosh. Okay, Leo Colborne, sweet little Leo, always trying to be happy and make everyone else happy too. When we meet her, she is living in her imagination, only emerging when Charlotte showed her the affection she was craving. Quickly, she became the family favorite and was always willing to ship her favorite people together. So cute. She is just all about sunshine, really. This little soul needs a happy song, so Gimme That Sunshine by Animal Island. Georgiana Lamb, poor girl, had been through the ringer emotionally from day one. I mean, how many twists and turns can a girl take in her first 21 years? Everyone wanting a piece of her in some way, but ultimately, I think her story is about her freedom to choose what she does in her life. George Michael's Freedom is her anthem. I would say that's a good one. Ms. Hankins and Dr. Falk, proving that love is possible any time in our lives, even when we least expect it. Even her brother eventually said, "I say a little prayer for you." Aretha Franklin again. She makes a lot of sense, Aretha that is. Charlotte during the entire Series 3. Our heroine seems to have had her wings clipped. What happened to the bright, forward-thinking, brave, and outspoken woman she was becoming? She's gone. But it's because of Ralph. Xander. She must have had Roxette's "Listen to Your Heart" blaring in her ears as she walked along those cliff tops. Samuel Colborne and Lady Susan. Gosh, I wish we had more of them. This gorgeous, mischievous couple. Love the matchmaking duo, who realize they are in too deep. They know they belong together. Their eyes just sparkle when they are within 1 kilometer radius of one another. Samuel would be singing Belinda Carlisle's song, "Leave a Light On For Me," In fact, I think everyone should sing it for them.
I hope everyone's singing along. That would be fun.
Ralph Starling. Poor Ralph. Sometimes good guys do finish last, but he deserves to be commended on his love, although not returned for Charlotte. He will find someone deserving, I'm sure. Doesn't she have sisters?
Oh, a lot of them.
A Little Bit of Love by Weezer. Charlotte and Xander, again, but at the end of Series 3. The song I would choose for the evolution of this couple is pretty much the entire song lyrics of Clarity by Vance Joy. I was very happy Xander finally found his clarity, only wish it was about 115 minutes ago. He showed great growth in all areas of his life, except for shaving. Sorry, that was me. He finally came out of his self-imposed exile once Charlotte sparked his heart and conscience. She gave him permission to finally forgive himself and begin to love again. I would recommend you listen to this song, if none of the others, but in case you don't, I'll highlight. And there you have it, a summary of Sanditon in song lyrics. Perhaps someone will make a musical? Imagine, just like Hamilton, but set in Regency Bristol. Think not? Good Lord, this email is long. I am so sorry to have subjected you to this rambling essay. Feel free to ignore it altogether or edit it to your liking, but I just had to say it. I will say it has been a pleasure and a joy to listen to your ramblings also. Can't wait until next time. Ciao and buona fortuna.
Say it like you're Italian.
Maria
buona
from...
fortuna.
Ciao and buona fortuna. This is from Maria from Perth. Complete with the hand gesture.
I just did it too as well. I don't know what happened. Oh, God.
Oh, gosh.
Apologies to any Italians listening. So that's all from us and Sanditon Fancast. Thank you to everyone who has supported us and reached out to us over our very brief time in this fandom. We hope you would join us in our other podcast endeavours, and apparently we've got a gigantic list now. Yay. Please look us up. But most of all, we hope you all stay safe and keep enjoying these wonderful period dramas. Thank you and bye.
Bye.